Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am Katie Shorey, Startup Maine's president. I'm so excited to continue this series. These virtual events feature thinkers and doers from across the state who are working on and building awesome companies and products, and also people who are helping to further develop our startup ecosystem. This is called the Entrepreneurs and Ecosystem Builders series. And if you have anyone that you'd like to suggest as a speaker, you can fill out a form at startupmaine.org. So today's event would not be possible without our sponsors, Bangor Savings Bank and Maine Technology Institute, as well as our business news sponsor, Maine Biz. We are also proud to be supported by the Maine Venture Fund. So a quick shout out to our sponsors. For those who don't know, Maine Technology Institute was founded and funded in 1999 by the Maine State Legislature, and they offer grants, loans, equity investments, and services that support Maine's innovation economy. MTI also supports the innovation economy through event sponsorships like this series, so we thank them for being such an amazing partner over the years. To learn more about them and if you are eligible for funding, visit mainetechnology.org. We are also supported by the Maine Venture Fund. The mission of Maine Venture Fund is to invest in dynamic businesses that have the potential for significant growth and impact in Maine. And I'm just going to show a brief video about our sponsor, Bangor Savings Bank. Bear with me as I go over here.
All across New England, business owners are finding new ways to succeed. Families are working hard to provide for their loved ones and their future. It's the spirit of New Englanders that inspires all of us to do more. It's in our employees, our customers, and our communities. Every day we do more, because at Bangor Savings Bank, we truly believe you matter more.
So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, CEO and founder of Marin Skincare, Patrick Breeding.
Thank you for having me, Katie. I'm Patrick, co-founder of Marin. I was just a normal kid that went to Maine, went through biomedical engineering undergrad, did some research, got a little curious in non-academic routes, realized that research was a really cool avenue to, kind of have control over the way that you're able to create impact and create new stuff and bring them into the world, or so I thought. Then I realized that you bring things into the world primarily through, building a business or building some vehicle by which you're able to give the thing you create to people. And that was what really turned me on to entrepreneurship. At the end of undergrad, went through grad school, started with Amber and a few others, our first medical education startup, where we were trying to create a medical education augmented reality app. We learned a lot of lessons. We went through all of the entrepreneurial training things that we could have gone through as Mainers. Maine Business Challenge, Greenlight Maine, Foster Center was so helpful to us. Top Gun, MTI, and we learned how to communicate, how to think about how to innovate, how to communicate value propositions, how to understand needs and problems, and then towards the end of grad school, also got involved in a company called Kinotech, which probably everybody knows, and Justin and David and Joey and Dan, and they're killing it. Not very involved there anymore, intentionally to focus 100% of my effort on Marin. At Marin, we create skincare products for people with eczema, psoriasis, and dry skin. And it's not just another brand with another set of ingredients like everybody in the industry is sick of for the last couple decades. We discovered that a glycoprotein found in lobster has this incredible ability to hydrate skin, protect and repair skin, as well as calm inflammation. And the amalgam of those mechanisms resulted in a really powerful active ingredient for people with damaged skin and dry skin. We found it when we were just grad students in engineering that had worked with some lobster scientists, and they were interested in finding value-added applications of lobster processing byproducts. They realized through the literature and some anecdotal evidence that could be really helpful as the ingredient, And we went ahead and formulated, us working together with these scientists, basically a prototype skincare product using the protein found in lobster. Accidentally calmed Amber's eczema, which she had struggled with for years. Super debilitating, super severe red, dry, itchy patches all over her skin. And it was incredible, and it changed our lives, and it really changed our vision for, okay, this is something that is highly effective. It solved her problem. It changed her life. We need to bring this to other people. And we were just fortunate enough to stumble upon it and stumble upon the people that have stumbled upon it. And we're really just the shepherds bringing this to people through the form of our skincare brand, Marin.
That's awesome. I mean, you've had quite the year, and did you know it was going to be this well received? And how did you go from that, knowing that you had stumbled on something, to then like now you have a product? Like, I know that's a loaded question, but how did you get from we have something to we're gonna make this a thing?
Well, it was going through the hoops of new things. So, in academia, we weren't exposed to commercialization in the full extent of it. We were exposed to creating a prototype and thinking that the prototype is the thing. The technology is the thing, of course, that's the most important part. And then we actually learned, like, that you need to go and actually find the manufacturer, make sure your thing is manufacturable, discuss pricing and terms, and understand the lead times and all the packaging ingredients that need to be sourced and all of those things. And that was those were new things that we enjoyed learning during COVID. We had COVID was a very harsh teacher of many things. As an example, we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours collecting our lobster glycoprotein over at Luke's Lobster, only to, I won't discuss the details, but only to bring it to our manufacturer and have it all be accidentally destroyed. Hundreds and hundreds of hours, and then to go back and say, okay, well, this is an interesting speed bump in the road. What are we going to do? Do it again. And then it happened again. And then we did it a third time. And and
how did you fix that? How did you fix that cycle though? Like, there was clearly something happening in, like, did you put some new like rules in place? Like, how did you then say, okay, we've had this happen twice. How do we make sure this road bump doesn't happen again?
Yeah, new QC measures at each point of failure. So you're just an iterative learning process. And what I'm trying to communicate is that these are normal things that every first-time founder and every small business runs into. It was just really tough to run into them during COVID, and so it was a real test of will, and it was a real test of resiliency, and so it was interesting to bring that into the world. We launched finally in October. We had a slow first, I wouldn't say slow, but we didn't know what to expect. So we had a decent first month. And then our strategy to spread the word was really PR, news stories, making traffic-based Facebook and Instagram ads go viral, and retargeting the traffic that would come to our website. And that picked up really quickly. So a decent first month, and then the second month, we had all of our projected inventory for 2021 basically sell out in a matter of 3 weeks, which was like going up the roller coaster. I don't know if you've ever been to Six Flags, to Superman. It's like, and you're getting up and you're like, oh, I can see it. I know it's about to happen. And then it starts to go down. And it's like, oh my God, like it's going really fast. Like, whoa, how do I keep the gears on this thing, keep it going? And anyway, that's my dramatic reenactment for what happened. It was really exciting and really amazing, and it expanded our vision for what was possible. We knew what was possible. You create financial projections for 3 to 5 years out, and you look to year 3 and you're like, these numbers are a little bit blurry. And for that to happen, all condensed in a matter of 3 weeks, it was really cool, because we lived in the life of like you know, a $3 to $4 million a year company when we were just starting. So you could look around and say, huh, okay, I know what this is going to be like. I know what customer service is going to be like. I understand how fulfillment's going to work. I know all these things. It was a really cool glimpse into that future when that's our, you know, running monthly revenue. And,
Wow.
you know, so our mindset shifted from, okay, it's time to, you know, build some new gears to put into the machine. It's time to use some WD-40 to make sure they work smoothly together. It's time to do all these things to make sure we can grow and scale. So for us, that looked like supply chain, making sure that we can go to our lobster processors, which is where we get the protein as a value-added, basically byproduct of their processing, and say, okay, how are we going to make sure that we can go to you and order this as a raw material as opposed to us collecting it ourselves? How are we going to strategize our inventory demand planning so that we're a couple months ahead of time, so we can actually push again and we can drive new customers, we can drive repeat sales without another inventory gap? How are we going to sustainably do marketing? How are we going to do customer service and all these things? And right now, we're still bursting at the seams of working out of our home, but we're planning to move into a commercial facility, planning our first couple hires. I think our first strategic hire will be marketing. Because you know, we've learned to do a lot, but we're engineers and kind of business owners and business development people that really need or could benefit from having that as an added team member. But
Yeah.
It was very exciting to have that all happen, and we learned a lot very quickly. I'm very happy it
In
happened.
year one. I bet. So I think it's important to note for folks that you have a physical product. I just bought it for my father, who has
Thank you for your
eczema,
purchase.
and you're welcome. So I'm excited to get his feedback. But you have a physical product that's different than a lot of other guests that might have a SaaS product. So what are some types of unique struggles that you think that they have that you don't, because you've now been part of both of those types of companies?
Yeah, and I was never a part of a company too that had a software, a tech product that ever reached revenue, but
Okay.
I certainly thought through the thought processes there. You know, inventories is the obvious number one. I mean, we have to have physical things X amount of weeks ahead of time, and we have to order those X amount of weeks ahead of time. So planning for that and being able to plan and control that growth, you know, for a tech company to be able to find adoption and traction in the way that we did, which is very possible. There's a bunch of different traction channels. You just need to find which one is going to click for you to be able to find customers and grow. You know, I imagine that you would launch, be a little slow, then you get the traction, then you'd be able to hire on devs and customer service people and everyone to make sure that everything is in place. And you could probably do that in a month or 2 months. For us, if Sephora came to us and said, hey, we'd like to try you out in 100 stores, we'd be like, okay, well, let's hold on a minute. Like, how much inventory is that going to be? How much working capital do we have to actually invest in that inventory? Is that the right move right now? And, you know, we're just growing in a different way than somebody that's playing the startup raise capital to go raise more capital game. We have a real business that's making real revenue with real cash flow. And so it's just very different because we can look in the future and be able to have a certain, you know, confidence about our future revenue that would allow us to use different forms of financing like loans. You know, it would be really stupid for a pre-revenue tech startup to use loans as their primary means of financing, and we can do that so that we don't have to give up parts of the company. I think another thing that is unique about us, and it's not necessarily unique to every physical product, but it's unique about us, is that we had product market fit on day one. We solved the problem. We accidentally fell into the solution. So there's little engineering to come up with the best product market fit. There was thoughtfulness behind the development of the product though, and the branding and the messaging and things like that. So more so for us, we don't have to spend months and years working on product, making sure we solve all the right problems. We can do that. And I think for us, it's about finding a repeatable and profitable mode of customer acquisition, because we know that we can solve the problem. And there are, 10,000 other brands that say they can solve the problem as well. The question is, can we cut through the noise in a way that really resonates with people, really just delight them, and then bring them back as repeat purchasers and have them refer us to friends? And that's it's a little bit different, I guess, than building a tech product, always optimizing it through get through your beta, get through your alpha, even when you've launched, always optimizing it. We have a great product. We have QC measures in place to make sure it doesn't become a bad product in some way. And then we'll introduce
Mhm.
more to solve more problems. So I think a lot of at least what happened for me in our own first medical education startup, got so fixated on the product market fit, so much so that I combined optimizing the product with staying in product development stage. There's always optimizing the product, but then there's also the importance of getting out there, getting the beta out, getting the first customers or potential customers talking to you about what they think. I would imagine a lot of people don't do that, and more people probably should. At least for me, as like a perfectionist kind of overthinker person, I always wanted to perfect the product, the technology, and sometimes you just got to get it out there in a way that's not going to be detrimental, but not to don't kick yourself in the shin by not putting it out there. It was a long
That's a
answer.
really no, but it's a cool perspective. I mean, it. I think you're thinking, you're adding a whole new, I think, element to this conversation, which is great. We haven't really touched on this. I want to dive in a little bit to your just about you and your leadership style. So I'm just curious how you structure your time and you focus, because I feel like this year threw you into this, like, you had to be go and ready for these ups and downs. So how are you managing all of that, and how are you structuring your time?
Well, I enjoyed the go. It's very energizing, and I realized in our inventory gap, which was 2-3 months from Christmas to late February, I found that it's okay to be energized by that. You don't rest your self-worth on the success or the acceleration or velocity of the business, but it's okay to be energized by that. There's nothing wrong with that. In go, there's seasons for it. There's seasons for going, there's seasons for resting. I think my leadership style is always developing. One thing that I've always tried to do is show up as a very thoughtful and genuine human and just talk directly to people. It's surprising how many people can actually look you in the eye and say a whole sentence and just like say something genuine to you. And that's not a knock on previous mentors or leaders. It's just sometimes just being a human is a really good way to lead. And then there's also leading by example and showing up, and before you expect something from someone else, showing up in the way you would want them to show up, which has been an important learning for me. And then I think we talked about it when we talked last time, but I remember one of the mentors that came in for Scratchpad was telling us about the dichotomy between farmers and hunters as different archetypes for the way that you work, the way that you do things in general. I am 100% a hunter. I will rest, and then I'll sprint and try to do what I'm trying to do, and then I'll just stop and then rest again. I'm less of a farmer, which would be a slow, walking, always watering the seeds, always doing that. And lucky for us, we brought on a great co-founder named Jeremy, who's a farmer. He is amazing.
Okay.
And we brought him in a COO, CFO role, and it splits up the way that we work very well. And what I'm trying to do is adopt farmer-like tendencies, but also do things that cater to my nature, and then also put people. So we have Amber, myself, and Jeremy right now, and some other people that help on things, but put people in roles that actually allow their true nature to be kind of bolstered in that role, so they can become the best version of themselves and not become someone that they don't want to be. We're thinking a lot about culture recently, and the development of a culture as we start to bring on our first hires. And it's important to like hire people for what they want to do, what they're good at, what energizes them. And I think back to grad school and my own kind of discontent with the type of work I was doing that didn't feel very fulfilling. I don't want people to feel like that. I want people to feel energized when they come to work at Marin and excited and connected to the impact. So anyway, that's kind of away from
Awesome.
my leadership style, but.
Well, I also, and we have a few questions coming in, and I have a few more that I want to get to. So we'll bang these out. But you said something the last time that we talked that really stuck with me about when you're talking about structuring, when you're structuring your time. Remember you were talking about like being able to decipher and the noise. So can you just talk about that a bit? Because I like that concept.
Yeah, well, so you asked about the structure of the day briefly. It's have a very specific morning routine, and if I don't do it, I feel off all day. Deep work as much as I can in the morning, except for days where we have technical difficulties like this, where it's very stressful. But deep work is as much as possible, because when you wake up and you don't have the stimulus and you didn't hear a rustle in the bushes and you aren't chasing something, that's when you can do some deep work and find stillness and actually get some really quality stuff done. And then in the afternoon, after I've done at least the key things that I'm trying to do to move things forward, then it's time for emails, LinkedIn, social media, whatever else is really like on a secondary level of importance. And then try to do a little play in the evening. But I've learned, so what we were talking about is I've learned to say no to a lot of things, programs, meetings, mentors, just things that don't really align with where I'm trying to go. And I think it's important in probably a lot of people that are perfectionists and very outgoing and social. Their ego places a lot of their own self-worth in what other people think of them. And so if you do that, that is literally placing your worth in what other people think of you and want from you, or whatever agenda. And it's not that it's bad. You're just taken away from your own. You only have so much amount of time and energy being the most important thing. And it's important to decipher between, okay, what's really going to get me to where I want to go, and what is a shiny object that, I think I was thinking about the quote where it's like, if you know your why, you can see any how. Kind of opposite of that. If you don't know your why, all those shiny objects look like hows, and you'll follow them, and you'll get very distracted, and you'll get nowhere, or measurably nowhere, but it'll feel like you're busy. And so turning down programs that don't exactly match what we're going for at this time in the business, it's really all like, I used to just, try to please mentors and not let them down, because you just don't realize, it's okay to let people down. And you don't realize that, I think, as a young entrepreneur, maybe it's just me, but then starting to focus on what's the vision, where are we going, what are the goals, what do we need to do to get there? And if this doesn't align with that, it's just not the thing for us right now.
I love that. And I'm going to be thinking about that a lot more intentionally, because I've definitely, I've fallen to that. So it's just something to think about. I just appreciate you diving in there and being so open about it. Okay. So we have a few more, I'm just curious. I want to make sure we talk about how you're collaborating in the blue economy. So let's talk about that briefly, just because I think it's a great story. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, I just think it's cool to mention that the Maine's blue economy is so interesting. It's in such a young state. I think a lot of the investors are looking at it. I think a lot of the people in the community know what's on the horizon with things like chitin and chitosan. I think we're the only ones doing what we're doing with glycoproteins, with fish byproducts. All of the people at the New England Ocean Cluster doing really interesting things and supporting people, just overly supporting people. It's just really interesting, because when we go to lobster processors and we tell them what we're doing, we can tell them on a dollar value how much we value we can add to each lobster that we touch and each lobster we collect glycoproteins from, they're all over it. And their mindset isn't like, okay, cool, you're going to do this much in these next 2-3 years. They're thinking 5-10 years down the road at massive scale, 100% utilization of waste and byproducts. And it's very cool. If there was a ETF called Maine's Blue Economy, I would put some into it right now. It would be a really cool return. There's so many things going on, and they're all such, relatively speaking, in an early stage. And I just thought it would be cool to mention how willing people are to help. Everyone that we needed to find to help us, from biotech, raw material manufacturing, to quality control people, to skincare that has some people in skincare that have done things with marine ingredients, to marketing and branding, all of those people have basically come to us. We just kind of put the intention in the word out there, and everyone is willing to come rally around something new and help. So I just think it's a really exciting time for Maine's blue economy. It can be a bunch of different things: aquaculture, fish byproducts, whatever. And people like Luke's, people like Greenhead Lobster, both seafood company lobster processors, they're very excited to help. So if anyone's entrepreneurially curious and interested in just trying something new or realizing some value or whatever, there's a really supportive ecosystem here to help you.
Love it. No, that's great. I see marketing campaigns in my future for this. Okay, so are you good to go? Like a handful more minutes. Want to make sure.
I just didn't want
timing
to
wise.
I didn't want to have you hear my neighbor bringing her trash down the driveway.
This
Just being
COVID
considerate.
life, man. It's all good. Quick question here from somebody: will you be developing sustainable packaging?
That's definitely something we're working on. It's we had to make certain decisions during COVID around packaging, around mailers, around ingredients, just to get the first version of the product out. I would even go as far to say that this first product it's really taking off, but it's almost like a prototype form of the rest of our business. And sustainability is something that increasingly matters to us. We have some amazing people that order from us that have come pick up, and we've sat on our deck, and this one woman who's a real estate agent in South Portland, who just walks around in her free time with a plastic bag, picking up plastic from the ocean. And it's so beautiful, and it's so amazing that people care about that. And that's something that is in our future for sure.
Awesome. So when you think about, you're in the thick of it now, and you have a front row seat to just some of the amazing things that are happening, especially in the blue economy in Maine. I want to know maybe something that you're excited about, and then something that you like, and maybe something that we could improve on, or just a big idea that you'd like to see. So let's start with something that you're excited about when you think about the Maine ecosystem.
I want to see more students come out and start companies and get things off the ground and go through all the hurdles and learn and grow and become incredibly capable people that create massive impact. And I'd like to help them do it. And I think one big idea we talked about last time we talked was, if there was a program that a group of investors or one particular high net worth individual or a program or whatever it is dumped 500 to $1 million into, and said, we're going to put this money into 5 to 10 student groups. We're going to pay for their housing. We're going to pay for their living expenses. They're not going to be, they don't need to go out and do any consulting or Fiverr or whatever to pay for their bills. They're going to be fine for a year. They have to find a problem, create a product, get that product to market, and start to grow in a year. When you're put against the wall, like in Tim Ferriss's book, not that the 4-hour work week is like a great title, but there's good learnings in it. If you had a gun to your head and you had to do everything you had to do in 4 hours or X amount of time, you would probably get it done. So that would be a really cool way to create a pressure cooker for young entrepreneurs, if you could just invest in them, make their living expenses okay, get them to do a thing, and put them in an environment that is supportive of that. That would be really exciting to see. And even if one pops off, it's just like a handful of angel investments. It's going to return, incredible amounts that would allow you to reinvest in that and then do it at a broader, larger scale. And I think that's how you could grow something like that. So that would be a cool thought. Just a thought. Don't know where that money comes from, but MTI.
Right. But gotta say something. Yeah, we could. Hey, that's the thing. You just got to put the idea out there, and maybe it gains traction, or somebody leads it. Okay, so a few more, just a few more quick questions here from the chat. More about do you anticipate transforming your branding or marketing as you scale? It seems like this is where you might implement lean, iterative processes for finding fit. In this case, not product market so much as narrative fit. So just any thoughts on when you're thinking about scaling, transforming your brand?
Let me read that question. Yeah.
Oh, I just moved it.
That's okay. I mean, without a doubt, I think that as we're growing, we're looking at each part of the business and thinking about how can it be done more efficiently and how can it be done better, and then at a larger scale. So I think that's three different things, three different buckets that the growth of each facet of the company needs to kind of grow into always. And that's why I mentioned, I think marketing will be our first real key hire. So we'd like to build it in-house because we have a vision of, initially it was just building a brand for people with eczema and dry skin. And now as we become more capable entrepreneurs, we realize that we don't have to grow to X amount and sell at this multiple. We could do that ourselves. We can grow a team, a culture where people are excited to come and reach those goals. And then we can enter different markets, introduce different products, all of these things that we see in the future, because the R&D reveals so many interesting applications. So, I mean, branding and marketing will become ever more important because it's just, this is a market where everyone says they have a cool thing. They have a unique differentiator, and it's really important to find that unique way to cut through the noise and click with people, and then have, like we were talking about, our social media as like a home for people to come to hang out and live with Marin, and make that a really enjoyable, pleasant place to be. And that has certainly got a lot of room to evolve, especially before we start to do national campaigns, national e-com, start to get into retailers. There's a lot to do. So if anyone has any input, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so that might be good. This is our last question, and it's a good one for the last question. So one, where can people buy your products right now? Where can they find Marin?
MarinSkincare.com.
MarinSkincare.com. Yes.
Just Google Marin Skincare.
It came very quickly. I ordered it and boom, my dad already has it. So, and then the last thing, what is, for anyone listening today, is there something that you need help with, or what would your ask be as you move forward? Other than maybe trying your product or gifting it to somebody.
I would love if you could try the product, tell people about it. It would be really interesting to tell people that would be interested in a social media management, VP of marketing for a digital e-commerce brand. Those friends that might be looking for a new position, it'd be really great to tell them about us and have them reach out. It would be great to start those conversations. But I think apart from meeting the next few people that we'll hire, marketing, customer service, fulfillment, and then supporting the product, just take that meeting from that kid that reaches out. That kid, it's kind of an offensive term that people still use from me. What a fun thing to hear. Take the meeting with that person and just give them a little bit of time, and let them go on their way, and try to help nudge them gently in the way that you feel that will serve them and that they need at that time. And that's how young people will be able to grow and do great things in Maine. And that's why they'll stay in Maine and they'll enjoy it, because the ecosystem is so supportive. That's what everybody says. It's quality of life and then a supportive ecosystem. So be part of that ecosystem. And, you know, talk about the lobster lotion. Helps us.
There you go. No, this was so great, Patrick. I appreciate your time and dealing with my difficulties in the morning. So thanks for everyone who stayed on with us. Patrick, if folks want to be in touch, LinkedIn, what's the preferred method? And can you also just tell us how you came up with Marin, the name?
LinkedIn would be a great way, just Patrick Breeding on LinkedIn. And we came up with Marin. It means star of the sea. But honestly, what we really did was come up with a bunch of different names that meant something. And then we tested them and we stopped overthinking it. And then we went with it. So that's the real way that we chose it. But it does have meaning, you know, marine without the E. So it all makes sense. But that, I think people ought to not overthink names too much.
But you didn't put lobster in the name. Very strategically.
Oh, interesting point. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because people need the problem to be solved, and there are features and there are benefits, and you don't need to describe all the features and like package that up and to bring it to people. I think you need what we needed to create was an aesthetic, understandable way to take our unique thing and kind of give it to people in a gentle way that there were, you know, that they weren't thrown off by. So you can't call your brand Lobster Skincare because that has no meaning. That's literally no meaning. Those two words have never been in the same sentence together. So coming up with a way to call the lobster glycoproteins marine glycoproteins, talking about what they do, talking about Marin as a brand. Marin isn't lobster skincare, it's gentle and effective skincare, and it does that with a new ingredient. So coming up for a way to name it, package it, give it to people in a way that's they want to use it, not in a way that's so confusing that it's a hurdle to use it. But that's an interesting thing you threw in at the end, Katie. We need to be thoughtful about that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think we could have talked for another 30 minutes, but I will let you get back to your busy day. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I'm really excited to see where you take the company and how the company grows. So thanks again.